And now we're going to talk to a gentleman, Glen Swanwick from Chilwell, who is a dizzy man, but he's going to talk a lot of sense, because Glen is the chairman of the Dizzy Group in Nottingham. Yes, there is a Dizzy Group. Glen first became dizzy 15 years ago. Before we tell us about the group and how common it is, let's talk about your particular story. There you were living a normal life up to about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
I woke up one day. The funny bit about it was that I'd been doing some part-time work. I was driving the emergency doctors, as they were called, around town through the night. And I went home, went to sleep, got up around about 3 o'clock, and it was a hot day, June, and I just felt weird. And I went outside to get some fresh air, and everything started to move that shouldn't move. And I just got the feeling of wanting to pass out. I made it back to the doorstep and sat down on there. And the wife came and says, "What's the matter?" And I couldn't speak. Everything was spinning. I was sweating. My t-shirt changed colour. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I was thinking, am I having a stroke? Am I having a heart attack? And I'm sort of working out the pros and cons, you know, no left arm pain, no nothing else, no. Then I'm thinking, is it meningitis? Because there was a meningitis scare around at the time. I thought, no, I've got no stiff neck, I've got no rash, I don't know what it is. And decided that I couldn't sit there. I was going to stand up, and I stood up and went straight down again, like a sack of potatoes.
It's so frightening. Did you feel nauseous as well?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's a horrible
that nauseous went on for about a week. We fetched the doctor out, and the first question, when did you last see a doctor? Well, I was with one all night, you know. Went down very well, and they thought there was something else in it, but no, my wife explained I was driving them around. And it just went from there.
So you had no warning?
No warning at all.
You just woke up in the morning and you were dizzy?
Dizzy, yeah.
See, I find that one of the most horrible experience, feelings. Yeah. Sometimes if I throw myself onto the bed because I'm tired, I get that like swirling pits, as I call it.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
But actually, but then I can just sit up and it'll go.
Yeah, I couldn't. But I got, I say, my wife and daughter-in-law got me up the stairs. Took them over half an hour to get me up the stairs, because I couldn't do it by looking, and I think I must have kept passing out on the way up. Terrible state. I got into bed, and I stayed there for almost a fortnight. The doctor visited 4 times one night to try and stop me being nauseous. At one stage, stuck a needle in my thigh. This will stop you. 10 minutes later, it's coming out my mouth.
So what?
You start to worry.
So there you are. You're in bed for 2 weeks, and nobody really knows what it is.
No. They put it down to a name that covers most things. We think it's otitis media, which is inflammation and a pain in the ears and an ear infection. And then they went down and said, no, it's a little bit more than that. It's vestibular neuritis. Some good, lovely big names here, you know.
I'm most impressed.
That's right. Nobody knew what it was and how it caused or whatever, but you'll get better in 6 weeks.
But you didn't.
I didn't.
And then they did something which I would find horrific, because they diagnosed it as a brain tumour, didn't they?
That's right. They thought I'd got a tumour.
Which seems sort of logical, doesn't it?
Oh yes. I had a CT scan, and that pointed to the fact that I'd got a small tumour in the vestibular canal in the inner ear, and they explained what the operation would be and what the pros and cons of it would have been. The fact that I could be left disfigured, unable to speak, all these sort of things. But we're going to send you for an MRI scan just to see exactly how big it is and where exactly it is. And this was just before Christmas.
Joining me in the studio still is Glen Swanwick from Chilwell. He's the chairman of the Dizzy Group. So we got to this situation with you, didn't we? That there you are. You've been diagnosed with a brain tumour, and they put you in this scanner, the MRI scanner.
MRI scanner, yes.
And then what happened?
Well, I mean, this was 3 months from first going dizzy. So you know, any answers would have been great. We had the scan, and go away and come back after Christmas, and we'll give you the results. Well, frightening Christmas. We go back, and the doctor turns round and says, "You've just won the lottery." And I thought he was serious, actually. But no, he says, there's nothing there.
So you didn't have a brain tumour?
I didn't have a brain tumour. So I said, well, if I hadn't have had the MRI scan, what would have happened? I would have still gone in and found nothing, which is frightening.
Yeah.
You've had an operation for no reason whatsoever.
Thank God for
So,
MRI scanners.
Thank you. Yes.
So therefore, you didn't have. But then you still, you know, better off.
No, better off. No.
So how did they diagnose what you got in the end?
It was a long, drawn out sort of process at the time. They've got better now, but at that time it was drawn out. There was hot and cold water in the ears and testing which one it is and flashing lights, and they finally sent me to what was known as the Dr. Kyan, actually. He was known as a dizzy doctor. Part of them all. We'll send you to the dizzy doctor. I thought he was going to be dizzy, but no, he knew about dizzy problems, and he got a lovely piece of apparatus which was a bit like the swimming baths, the goggles that people put on, and he got lights in the side, and he said, I'm going to make you dizzy, but trust me. And he was sort of lifting me up and pushing me down off of a couch, and he's looking into my eyes all the while. I've got to keep my eyes open, and I was all over the place.
Oh, horrible.
But he was hanging on to me quite well. I know what's wrong with you. I thought, this is the first man that's said something like that in over 3 months for me. He says, you're suffering from vertigo. And like everybody else, I said, but I'm not frightened of heights.
Yes.
No, he says it's a medical term, and it covers a multitude of sins. And you've got this vertigo.
So how is it treated?
By exercises which make you dizzy. He explained that it's down to your brain cells dying at the back of your head and not reprogramming themselves.
Right.
It's a little bit like a computer. Computer program goes down, you hit a button, it repairs itself. Your brain should do the same.
It doesn't boot itself up.
It doesn't boot itself up. But you've got to make yourself dizzy for it to be accustomed to you being dizzy. Which was terrible. Especially as I've been walking around like a zombie, stiff neck, not wanting to move, you know. Terrible.
How common is this?
We didn't think at the beginning, before we set up this, or before this group was set up, we didn't believe it was very common, because everybody was asking the same questions at the time. Does anybody else suffer with this? We didn't know. But then when we got together, there was at least 100 of us in at the hearing services on the rope walk at the time, all with the same problem.
So 100 in what, in the East Midlands or in Nottingham? In Nottingham.
In Nottingham.
Oh, really?
That was 10, 12 odd years ago, and it was frightening that there's this sort of number, but there are even more.
And do we know what causes it?
There's various things, and they cause different reactions, hence the different names that we encompass in dizzy group. There's labyrinthitis, there's Meniere's disease, some of the less well-known ones like Arnold-Chiari malformation, Mulder-Berekman syndrome.
No wonder you just go for dizzy.
That's it, you know. Great names, but each one has got its own little peculiarity. Some you're nauseous more with it. Vertigo, it's just your vision and things moving and making you dizzy. But you know, you get used to it is the only way, and the only way around it is exercises to make yourself dizzy.
And has your brain relearned?
No. It has to a certain degree, but not fully.
So when you get up from doing this interview,
yes,
what'll happen?
If I got up and walked straight out of this studio now, I don't think I'd make the door. I'd be on the floor. You stand up, you get up from the chair, you stand still for 2 or 3 seconds.
No, you
balance.
You can't have a sign on you saying I'm the chairman of the dizzy group. Or
well,
something.
I've got one on now, but yes.
So what do people think?
You're drunk. Basically,
you don't touch a drop.
No.
Obviously,
no.
The situation.
Well, there's that many tablets as well going into me as well. I don't want to take the chance, but I never have been a big drinker. But it's one of these things, you know. It's a little bit like,
but if people think you're drunk, you get a lack of sympathy, don't you?
You do. You know, it's been said to me, my God, they've only been open 10 minutes and look at the state of him. I now use a walking stick outside. That tells people that I've got a walking problem. I'm not straight out of the pub. I mean, now the only way of sort of explaining it, while Goose Fair's on, it's like somebody having a double ride on the waltzers. And that feeling when you get off and you touch solid ground, that dizziness is with me always.
All the time. Oh my goodness. The family been helpful? Have they looked after you?
My wife did until she died 6 years ago, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then I decided my sons can't sort of hold on to my hand, walk down the street with me. I've got to do something about it. And that's when I got involved more and more with volunteer work and the Dizzy Self-Help Group.
Because you go all over the UK.
I do now, yes. Yes. I'm off to Southampton in, I think it's April next year. I talk to another one of those wonderful words, the British Association of Audiological Practitioners. They're known as BAPs.
Well,
what the patient perspective is.
Yes.
They know all about it,
Yeah.
but not from a patient point of view.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's an awareness.
You're not allowed to drive, of course.
Oh, yes, you can drive.
You can?
Can drive, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that advisable?
Yes, because if you make allowances, if you know that if it's going to be snowing and your windscreen wipers on, to me, all this peripheral movement just takes my concentration away and my head starts to spin.
Right.
You know, quite a few people are like that. And you just have to pull over and wait till it stopped. Or it's like walking. You've got to be able to do this. If you walk through a crowd, walk down through the Vic Centre, as I've done this morning, and there's people coming towards you, cutting across you, it makes you feel a little bit woozy.
Yeah.
You know, and you've not got to look at them. You've got to look through them, and you've got to learn to do that as well. Otherwise, you're wandering all over the place.
So if you know Glen Swanwick and he's walking along the Victoria Centre, say, "Hey up, Glen," and he looks straight through you. You know why. Glen Swanwick, thanks very much for coming in.
That's quite all right. Thank you.
Now we've got the details of Action Line. Got the details.
They have.
Yeah,
yes.
Excellent. So if you want to know more about the Dizzy Group in Nottingham in particular and Glen's work, then by all means give our Action Line a ring. It's on the
website as well,
it's
for
on
BBC.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So it's on the website. Go to bbc.co.uk/Nottingham. We've got a link into our website, BBC website. And also, our Action Line number is 934 8484. 934 8484.